Student movements are an essential part of social change in a democracy like ours. They are also central components of the movements that have been bulwarks against authoritarianism across the globe.
The sit-in movement. It has challenged certain fundamental concepts of law and is shaking the regional traditions of the South in an entirely new way. 80 Nashville students were arrested out of over 300 who were participating in the sit-ins that day.
The active, large-scale American and South Vietnamese participation in the fighting in Cambodia has brought a cry of anger from many college campuses.
There's work that just charts across the past half century countries that have been able to successfully resist creeping authoritarianism and those that haven't. And one of the things he says is a major determinant of that and a driver is how vibrant was their student protest movement.
Hi, my name is Kaylee Hassan, and I'm a Harvard Law School student. I tapped into the library, went up to the 4th floor in the reading room. I sat down, I got out my laptop, and I just started doing my work for probably the next class that was happening right after the lunch period. During this sit-in, the study-in, it was maybe the quietest I had ever heard the library. We all got emails at the same time that we were banned from the library, the respective libraries that the study-ins happened in.
This was pretty shocking. I really didn't think anything was going to happen.
Tensions within the Harvard campus continue. Now professors are stepping up in solidarity with students facing disciplinary action.
We thought that that was a serious breach of the norms of open inquiry and of respect for dissent and protest. And so we decided, a few weeks after those students were suspended, that we would print a few words from the university Statement of Rights and Responsibilities, and also separately print the library's own statement of values that they had printed on a big banner outside of the Widener reading room that said, "Embrace diverse perspectives." We printed those words, and on the other side we had a reading list. Readings about civil discourse and the importance of it in resisting authoritarianism. We walked into the reading room, and when the bells rang at 1, we packed up our reading and we walked out.
It is often the case that private institutions, including private universities, have a great amount of latitude to adopt rules about what can occur on their property and especially what speech or activities their affiliates can engage in. And so I think one of the most clear areas is the type of speech and protests and events that they allow in public outdoor spaces on their campus. And in that respect, I really think that universities should be doing their absolute best to allow as much speech as possible in those spaces. And what we've seen at Harvard and other places is increasing attempts, and Harvard is, I would say, one of the most restrictive in the Commonwealth, increasing attempts to limit what kind of speech can happen in Harvard Yard or, in any of these public outdoor areas. The more restricted that you get, the more restrictive on speech you're going to be, and the harder it is going to be for students and affiliates to engage in speech.
Everyone can walk into a library with a piece of paper. Everyone can walk into a library in solidarity. And I just felt like this was such a low level, should have been low stakes, should have been low risk, should have been the least we can do.
We understand that Harvard legally has the right to ban us from the library, but it's disappointing to see an institution which prides itself on freedom of intellectual expression and inquiry weaponize tort and trespass law against its students to selectively stifle freedom of expression.
The fact that the university was so immediate to be punitive, I think was just foreshadowing for how repressive the university would become.
Harvard is weaponizing the law against its own students in the same way that the administration is weaponizing the law against Harvard and against the general population.
Yes, you can look at whether something is disruptive, but you should consider the value of having a really robust free expression culture on your campus and weigh that against genuinely, how disruptive is it actually?
We're not making a disturbance. It was a silent study-in. I think that, like I said, it was the quietest I've ever heard the library. There are plenty of people who make much more of a disturbance by opening a bag of chips. We were silent.
Harvard has been my home, figuratively and really literally, for at this point close to half my life. I imagine there's people watching who think, yeah, you probably should have gotten suspended. Or maybe even more pointedly, you shouldn't have done that. And I respect that. I respect this as a place where we're supposed to be able to disagree with each other. That's why I did what I did. I think it's essential that we actually try to engage with each other and that we not try to win the battle over ideas by using force or coercive measures to do that. I don't think that universities should be in the business of promoting punishment as a way of winning arguments. Protest actions are tactics in movement work. They're tactics in organizing, and they are only effective toward achieving your true goals of a more just world if you are building power with other people as you do it. You can't do it by yourself. And it gets less scary if you do it with other people.
You know, we are living through this slippery slope right now, and we are seeing what can happen, and we might just be at the beginning of what could potentially happen. I hope that it inspires, you know, this generation of law students to value and fight for free expression.
I feel pretty solid about speaking out, and there are some risks that are worth taking. We have a lot of power. We're in one of the most powerful schools on earth, one of the most powerful, richest places on earth. You have to use your voice.
A community where people who disagree, even over this type of tactic, can recognize that the ability to engage across that disagreement is the only way that a university continues to thrive, and more importantly than that, it's the only way that a deeply divided and weakened country, teetering on the edge of the end of democracy, can actually pull itself back. These are hard choices. This is a hard moment we're living through. Protest isn't easy. The pragmatic reality is you likely will get punished for some of the protests that students today think of engaging in, whether that's something as simple as sitting quietly and reading in a library. Weighing the risks to you as a person and the vulnerability that you might have, the position you're in, versus the strategic value of the action you're taking is a real calculus to make.
It's when you learn what solidarity is, when you learn what bravery is, and when other people come to your aid and say, if this happened to you, it's going to happen to me, because I'm willing to say the exact same thing.
One who breaks an unjust law must do so openly, lovingly, and with a willingness to accept the penalty. I submit that an individual who breaks a law that conscience tells him is unjust and who willingly accepts the penalty of imprisonment in order to arouse the conscience of the community over its injustice is in reality expressing the highest respect for law.